Hi everyone, welcome to Edupedia World. I am C. Radhika Singhal. In the last session, we discussed regarding different types of contract. One is forward contract, other is future contract, and in the last class we discussed regarding option contract, where the option holder has a right to take or make a delivery. There's one more arrangement which is very commonly traded in the stock exchange, and that is swap arrangement. Swap means to exchange. So a swap contract is the one where the parties in the contract exchange their one stream of future cash flows. So swap contract could be a currency swap or it could be an interest rate swap. Interest rate swap is one of the most commonly traded derivative instrument which is being used all over the world. Interest rate swap is used when the two parties wants to take the benefits of the interest rate in two different countries. For example, there are two parties A and B. A wants to have a fixed rate of interest charge, while B wants that he should have a floating rate of interest. But in B's market, the fixed rate of interest is more attractive, and in A's market, the floating rate of interest is more attractive. Means that is more beneficial for those parties. So both these parties could either get their desired borrowings, however, that is not as lucrative as the other option is. So there is a third party who makes an arrangement between these two parties A and B and get their exchange rate swap so that both the parties could get a comparative advantage and also get their desired borrowings. I think it's better to do one example to understand its concept. Companies A and B, they face the following interest rates. Company A has a fixed rate of 12% and a floating rate of LIBOR plus 1%. Company B has a fixed rate of 13.4% in its market and a LIBOR plus 0.6%. Assume that A wants to borrow a floating rate of interest and B wants to borrow a fixed rate of interest. So in the given scenario, company A is at a beneficial position. Either that company will go for fixed rate or floating rate. But as compared to company B, fixed rate is more beneficial because there is a gap of 1.4% and in floating rate there's gap of only 0.5%. So for company A, fixed rate is more lucrative. However, the desired borrowings is LIBOR plus 1%. Company B has a fixed rate of 13.4% and a floating rate of LIBOR plus 0.6%. But B wants to borrow a fixed rate of interest. But in B's market, the fixed rate is very high. So there is a financial institution who is planning to arrange a swap and requires a 50 basis point spread. So whenever a financial institution get engaged to swap or give a comparative advantage, they used to charge some commission and that is called as their own commission. So whatever benefit is there, after that 0.5% is their commission charges. So when the swap can happen, the swap will only happen when company A and company B both are at beneficial position and they get the desired borrowings. Company A will exchange or swap with company B only when it's getting a better option than its desired borrowings. So company A wants a floating rate of LIBOR plus 1%. But if that rate could be lesser and can get an advantage by entering into an agreement, only then company A will enter. So how this swap agreement happens? Let's see. What is the desired borrowings? Company A wants LIBOR plus 1% floating rate. Company B wants 13.4%. So what is if company A borrows on behalf of company B? Let's say it's taken loan of 5%. How much company B will get benefit? 1.5% because of that. And company B borrow flexible rate of interest which is LIBOR plus 1%. So in this scenario, company A will have a loss of 0.5% because what is the desired borrowings? LIBOR plus 0.5%. But as company B is gonna take the floating ROI on behalf of company A, then it will borrow at LIBOR plus 1. So there is a loss of 0.5% for company A, and there is a benefit of 1.5% for company B. So company B has to compensate company A for bearing that loss. So from the profit of 1.5%, 0.5 is to be compensated by B to A, so that the ultimate rate for company A will be again LIBOR plus 0.5, and company B will have a benefit of 1%. After that 1% benefit, company B has to pay commission of 0.5% to the financial institution. So the net gain company B has in its hand is 0.5% due to that exchange. But why company A will enter into such contract? So company B has to share that profit percentage with company A. So 50% will be taken by company A, 50% will be taken by company B. So company B has borrowed LIBOR plus 1% floating rate on behalf of company A. 0.5 is being compensated. So the rate is LIBOR plus 0.5, and the net benefit that arises due to swapping of the interest rate, 0.25 will also be reduced. So company A has to ultimately pay LIBOR plus 0.25%. And company B has a fixed rate of 6.5. After that it get a benefit of 0.25% due to that exchange. Or you can also take it away. Company A take it on behalf of company B fixed rate of 5%. 0.5 is the commission paid, so that makes it 5.5, right? Then 0.25 is the benefit that the company get because of the exchange, that makes it 5.75. And then 0.5 is the compensation paid by company B to company A. So the net rate will be 6.25. So the net position after swap is company A has to bear LIBOR plus 0.25% and company B will pay 6.25%. So both get their desired borrowings. Company A borrowed at floating rate but lesser than the rate that it has to pay in its market. And company B also get the borrowing at its desired fixed rate but lesser than the fixed rate prevailing in their market. So interest rate swap is used to get that advantage. Similarly goes with the currency swap. In currency swap also, instead of that interest rate, there is an exchange of currency. So the rationale of currency swap lies because there is one borrower who has a comparative advantage in borrowing in one currency, while the other borrower has an advantage in another currency. And that's why currency swap happens. And it's being treated the same way we treat the interest rate swap. Clear? So in a derivative market, we studied that there are two types of market. One is the spot market and the other one is the forward market, or you can say that there's a derivative market. So spot, where one of the constituent, that is either the price or the delivery, occurred. The other is a derivative market where there is a specified date or a specified price, but neither of the constituent, that is neither the price nor the delivery, occur. So this derivative market could either be over the counter or it could be on an exchange traded. So exchange traded derivative market could further be classified as equity derivative, commodity derivative, forex derivative, interest rate derivative, and credit derivative. So derivative is that which derives its value from an underlying asset. So equity derivative is the one when the underlying asset is equity, and similarly goes for the other. Commodity derivative when the underlying asset is a commodity. Forex, underlying asset is a forex, financial exchange rate. Interest rate, interest, and credit derivative is something different. But again, the underlying asset is a credit instrument which is being used for exchange. Let's discuss one by one. So, equity derivative is the one where the underlying asset is an equity derivative. So, a derivative derives its value from the underlying asset. So, when it is equity, share price keep on fluctuating. So, if the share price fluctuates, similarly goes the derivative value also. So, it fluctuates with the change in the share price. So, the equity derivatives could also be classified in four ways. One is index future and index option. Other is stock futures and stock option. So option means against the call and the put option, and future is also a contract at a specified date and which is being traded on a stock market. That's why we discuss under stock exchange traded derivative. So let's discuss first stock futures and stock option. Stock option, the put and a call option, and the underlying asset is what? Share. So the put and call option is for the particular stock. Stock future, when that underlying asset is being a share, or you can say a stock, which is being traded or which is to be traded at a future date, and that too at a specified price. Clear? Now there is one more. Have you ever heard about regarding Nifty, Sensex? Do you know what are they? These are just a measurement of, you can say, top 30, top 50 companies. So index futures and index options, they are the financial derivatives which have the stock index as the underlying asset. So a stock index is the one where that index is representing the change in the market value of number of securities which is contained in that index. So when you enter into an index future, that index is in the underlying asset and that is being traded at a future date at a specified price. And similarly goes with the option, index option. The underlying asset is again the index. The option holder has a call and put option on the index. The next type of derivative is financial, or you can say forex derivative. So financial and forex derivative, the underlying asset will be what? The exchange currency. So there are various types of contracts which are dealt in financial forex market. The first is currency option contract. The next one is currency swap, and the other one is forward and future contracts. So they are of the same nature. We already learned what is option, what is swap, what is forward and future. So here when the asset, the same nature is there and the underlying asset is changing. So that's why I told you that once you understand the concept, you can get into it, because even if the underlying assets keep on changing, its nature will remain same. An option is going to deal in the same way. There is a call option, a put option. It's only the underlying asset which is being changed. So when I talk about currency option, that means there is a call and put against forex, against currency rate. Alright. So next is interest rate derivative. Interest rate, what will be the underlying asset? The interest. So we already learned regarding swap, interest rate swap. So this is one of the, you can say this is one subset of interest rate strategy. The other way is interest rate cap and floor and interest rate swapation. Swapation, swap plus option, that means exchange plus the nature of option contract. So in a interest rate swapation, the buyer means the option holder, he gains a right but not an obligation to enter into a specified swap arrangement on a specified future date. So again, there's one party who has an option, other one has an obligation. The one which has an option has the right to enter into a swap agreement or not to enter into a swap agreement. The other is interest rate cap and floor. Cap is the maximum rate that the issuer is going to pay to its investor, and floor is the minimum interest rate that the issuer will pay to its investor. So, a interest rate cap derivative is a type of derivative in which the buyer will receive the amount when the interest rate cap, when the interest rate is more than the strike rate. And for the floor, the buyer will receive the payment when the interest rate is below the strike rate. So that strike rate is the agreed rate, cap is the maximum rate, and floor is the minimum rate. So a derivative instrument for receiving the payment when that interest rate rises will be for interest rate cap, and an agreement or arrangement where the buyer receives the payment when it falls beyond the strike rate is called as interest rate floor. Credit derivative. So in credit derivative, there are contracts which provide an insurance or hedging against the credit related losses. Credit related losses means like bankruptcy, insolvency. So when the party wants to safeguard or hedge himself against such related losses, it is called as credit derivative, because the underlying asset is those credit related losses. The party which is getting that benefit is called as protection buyer. The party which is going to transfer that credit related risk, those who had that risk and want to transfer or hedge that risk, is called as protection seller. And the party who is buying that risk is called as protection buyer. So in this contract, the two parties are protection seller and protection buyer. And these events like the bankruptcy or the insolvency, these losses are called as credit events. The other is commodity market. So what do you understand by commodity? Gold, silver, all these are different commodities. So when this underlying asset is a commodity, it is called as commodity derivative. Let's talk about jeweler. What commodity a jeweler dealt in? Gold. Gold prices fluctuates. So when that jeweler wants to safeguard himself against that fluctuation in gold prices by entering into future contract, keeping those gold as or those inventory as the asset, it is called as a commodity contract. So commodity, it can be defined as an article, a product or material that is bought and sold. It can be classified as every kind of immovable property except actionable claims, money and securities. So this is how commodity has been defined. This is a very famous market. However, it is also being listed. If you ever heard regarding MCX multi commodity exchange, there is a exchange price you can see when you open CNIB and all these index rates. National Commission and Derivative Exchange, all these are the stock exchange for dealing into commodity market. And the very common commodities which are being traded in the market are like gold, silver, so these are the precious materials. Other than that, there are also other metals which are used in commodity market like nickel, copper, aluminium, some agro-based commodities like wheat, rice. All these are also dealt into the commodity market and are used as an underlying asset. That's all in derivative market. If you have any questions, just leave a comment. Thank you so much and have a nice day.